In modern society, we see suffering and discomfort as pure evil. We surround ourselves with pleasure and comfort so we can live an easy life. We have grown soft and have become so spoiled by the fruits of modern civilization. Because of this, we are unable to deal with the sufferings of life, often resulting in depression, alcohol and indulgence in instant gratification. We Spartans welcome suffering when it comes on our path. We know suffering can be hard, and because of this we see suffering as a test for our bodies and minds. Like most of you, I have avoided suffering and discomfort for the most part of my life. I always took the easy way out, even during the COVID lockdowns. Instead of actually, building myself up, I was indulging in, playing video games all day. And I actually saw suffering and discomfort as something bad, something that I should be avoiding. I should be seeking pleasure to be happy, not discomfort. That's something to avoid. But I actually learned that the opposite was true. Those instant gratification activities weren't gonna make me happy, no. Suffering and discomfort was gonna make me happy. Because those are the things that will actually make you stronger. Suffering can promote strength and health. But what do I mean by suffering? Well, I mean suffering of the body and the mind. And by suffering of the body, this can be something like you running a marathon and actually pushing your body to the ultimate max, even going through the pain and discomfort. Well, you might be running that marathon and you might be actually done, but you still have 50 kilometers to go and you push yourself through that pain. Well, that's suffering. That's suffering of the physical body. And then you have the suffering of the mind. This can be something like the loss of a family member, the loss of something you truly love and we have great trouble with in your mind. Suffering gives us a challenge to overcome, whether it is a physical challenge or a mental challenge. To enjoy life to its full potential, we must first know the negative. And this can be summarized in a great example here. Let's say you have a near-death experience, and before that near-death experience you didn't really value your life. You were just going through life like normal people do. But after that near-death experience, people often value life much more. And they will tell you like, well, now I'm truly gonna live my life, Then they really appreciate life because they have seen the bad side of it. People often accept the good times as normal and they don't value it anymore. Another thing with suffering is that suffering will make us stronger, because when we overcome this suffering, our minds will get used to it, our bodies will get used to it. When you run your first marathon, it might be really hard for your body, but the second and the third will be much easier. The same with going through a breakup with your girlfriend. The first will be really hard on your mind, but the second or the third time will be much easier. Or maybe this is a bad example, but let's say you walk up to a girl and she rejects you. It might feel really hard the first time, but the second, third, fourth time you do it, it will be much easier because you have trained your mind to actually go through the hard thing, to actually go through discomfort. And that's how great and powerful men are made. Hard times create strong men. Good times create weak men. We can choose to deal with suffering or we can choose to deny it. But if we choose to deny it, we won't get the benefits. The benefits of suffering come only to those who are willing to endure it and who are prepared to face it head on. So many people today are running away from their suffering with indulgence in alcohol, TV, games and snacking. Why do you think so many people are depressed these days? Why do you think so many people look out to the weekends so they can just drink themselves into oblivion? Well, because they don't just want to forget the hassle of the working week. They want to forget the hassle of life. They want to deny their suffering instead of actually dealing with it and coming out stronger, as true men do. It is our job to reject modernity and reach the lost souls. Because so many people are weak these days. And I've made a great video, Reject Modernity, Embrace Masculinity. It's a true motivation for a real man. For the true Spartans, you might be asking yourself now, well, how do I deal with suffering? Well, it's not by distracting yourself and indulging in instant gratification, TV and games. No, it's by actually sitting in solitude with yourself without any distractions. Go sit with yourself for 30 minutes a day, just with your eyes closed, without any music, just thinking about the things that come to mind, the problems that you endure. Try to figure it out, get your mind in order. Or by actually journaling, write down the things you don't like, write down the things that are going on, write down your next goals in life. All these things can really bring a lot of peace into your mind. There is no true misfortune. Everything happens according to nature. The only difference is the bearer of this misfortune. Do you get crushed by the pain? Or do you stand firm as a rock? Be grateful that this misfortune has happened to you, because this is a great challenge to yourself. There is a great thing called voluntary suffering, and it is actually the process where you go looking for suffering and discomfort yourself. Instead of waiting for suffering to come to you, you actually put yourself in those experiences where you have to go through discomfort. And it can be physical as well as mentally. And I have just started to implement a few of these concepts. I am no master in it yet, but I would like to master it. And because of voluntarily suffering and actually looking for discomfort, we can strengthen our bodies and our minds so we can overcome more suffering. So the next time that something real happens to us without us looking for it, we can overcome it without any problem. Some of you might have read the book Meditations from Marcus Aurelius. He actually had 14 kids, but of these 14 kids only 7 survived. Well, the loss of your child, that's true suffering, and especially the loss of 7 kids. So I have tried to embrace discomfort by actually doing the hard work, especially when I don't feel like it, by actually starting my own business without any reassurance that I'm gonna make some money in the future. And especially when I'm feeling lazy, I try to push myself to do the thing, especially then. I tried to endure voluntary suffering 2 years back. At that time I had a job in a factory and I had a car. So what I did was I actually slept in my car for a whole month. I had basically the choice of staying at home or actually sleeping in the car. But I decided to sleep in the car at the parking spot of this factory. And the first few nights were pretty hard because I was sitting in solitude, and the feeling of actually living in your car is quite sad, But after a few nights, I really started to appreciate the solitude. And I really looked forward to working and seeing my colleagues, laughing with my colleagues. I could really appreciate the things that we take for granted normally. I could really appreciate them. Normally you'd be thinking, wow, shit, I have to go to work, fuck that, I don't like it. But I was actually looking forward to work. I was working in pleasure and I was actually asking my boss, please let me work some more. Another way I will be doing this in the future is by actually going to Austria by bike. I've never gone this far, but I live in Groningen in the Netherlands and I'm gonna bike all the way to Austria with my tent and with my bike. And I hope I endure a great deal of suffering. I'm planning to bike at least 200 kilometers a day. Tell me, did you ever voluntarily suffer? Did you ever put yourself through a real hard situation for the purpose of actually growing? For becoming a better person? I've got another great example. I hang out with my nephew quite a lot and he actually went through some really hard times because he couldn't move his hands and arms properly. He was pretty much in pain all day and because of this he was sitting at home all the time. But I told him I was quite jealous of him. And he looked at me weird and told me, you don't want to be going through this? And I told him, yeah, you're right, I don't. But I really appreciate the opportunity that life has given you. And because of his suffering, he has become a stronger man. He had to sit in solitude all day. And he actually had the time to read a lot of books, to investigate different concepts. and he actually learned so much. He has learned so much more than that when he wouldn't be suffering. Otherwise he would just be gaming all day, you know? But he can't because of his fingers and his arms. You know, if we ever run into suffering, we must not run away. We must embrace it for the purpose of growing and strengthening ourselves. And you might be going through something real hard right now, but remember this. Embrace your suffering because it will make you a better person. It will make you stronger. Don't try to run away from it. Don't try to hide in alcohol, TV, games. Remember, Spartans, we have the power to decide what suffering will do to us. Will we let our suffering destroy us and drive us into a pit of despair? Or will suffering lift us to heights of a fulfilling life? It's time to reject weakness. Spartans, prepare for glory.